All right, this is Introduction to the Stock Market 101, and we're going to do a quick video on what is the stock market and how does it work. Most of you probably know all of this, but we're going to run through it real quick. The stock market is simply a public market that exists for buying, selling, and then issuing stocks on a trade exchange. This is known as equities, right? You buy an equity in a company. Well, what does it mean when you buy an equity in a company? If I bought one share of Amazon, well, I am a partial owner of Amazon, right? And I get to reap in the rewards of the profits. And that's shown sometimes by dividends. Certain companies pay out dividends. And it's also shown in the price of the stock going up so that your value, your asset is more valuable, right? So we can buy and sell these equities as much as we want. When I was growing up, I remember my first stock that I got was actually a piece of paper, and it said, "Hey, you own part of this company." There's a little picture of one here later in this video. I'll show it to you. Now, how do these companies get listed? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. You know, you've got an IPO, you've got direct listings, you've got spots, and then you actually have some that aren't on the New York Stock Exchange or the other exchanges, and they're called over-the-counter OTC stocks. Those are much more riskier because they don't have the regulations that others have. So you can choose to be listed on these exchanges in a bunch of different ways, but no matter what you do, you're trying to do one thing and one thing only, and that's raising capital. Why are they trying to raise capital? So they can grow their business. And it's an interesting story. You can actually go back and do some digging on this about how this all started. And there's a story about how the East, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this, like on Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff, but the East India Company, they actually allowed, quote unquote, stocks, partial ownership into their company so that they could all reap the rewards of the entire business together. And that would allow them to increase their shipping fleets, right? So that's kind of where it all started. And I believe the first exchange, like regulated one, was the London Stock Exchange. But the New York Stock Exchange was established in 1792. And that's what we are most familiar with. All right. All right, let's skip on. Now, what do we do? You know, if we decide, hey, yeah, I want to buy into this IPO, I want to buy into this direct listing or this spot, or just a company that's already listed, Apple, we missed the IPO. What are we trying to do? Well, we're trying to turn our shares, right, into dollars. And this is just a picture, it's just a corner picture of a page of what stocks used to look like. Now it's all electronic, but you would have, this is a piece of paper saying you own this many shares. And so we're trying to turn this shares into dollars for us, right? That's the goal. Now, there's other, exchanges like the NASDAQ, and there's other lesser known exchanges as well. But for us, it's mainly the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ came around, a lot of technologies companies wanted to get in. They went to the NASDAQ. And so when you think of technology companies, you're usually talking about the NASDAQ. So how do we know that we're safe when we invest in these? Well, it's because we can trust our big brother, government, right? They're protecting us. So there's the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and companies are required to report filings, earnings, all these certain rules. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Enron, but they got taken down, and then all these other companies. So, it's for us to be protected. That's what the SEC is here for. And I'm putting that in quotation marks, because at the end of the day, guys, one of the things that you need to realize about the stock market is it's retail traders versus everyone else. And the perfect example of that is GameStop. GameStop was running the big dogs out of town. Retail investors were squeezing them. So what happened? Well, I don't know if you know the story of it, but basically the exchanges stopped letting you buy it, but you could sell it. Well, why did they do that? Well, because it was causing the big boys problems. And so just remember, it's us versus everyone else. And knowing that the game is rigged against you will help you to be more cautious in your trades. And our goal in playing the stock market isn't to fight the big boys. It's to simply ride along with them. And as long as we can do that, we can grow our accounts exponentially. All right. Let's end this recording.